Welcome acolytes. Today I'm gonna react to a video named Palworld is going to get bigger from Legendary Drops. Now why am I doing this? Just because, well, is Palworld old news? Basically yes, but at the end of the day, if you see something that actually started like Palworld and it just gets so big in a freaking way that's just so nice. It's just so nice to see that something like Palworld just gets bigger. It just runs through everything and we can actually be happy that we have it and see it and just can enjoy something that some people that just got together, did it and did it well and just made it so big that it's just absurd. And we can be happy about it. Why can we be happy about it? Because it's good. It's an extremely good thing to see that something like that can actually just kick the butt of a AAA title without even blinking. And that's just a good feeling. It's not that I think there is a higher purpose or something. No, it's just a good feeling of seeing something that starts with zero and with a freaking shit ton of just positive reviews and just be a pure positive form of entertainment in this world. So let's just see what he has to say and just do it.
Is getting bigger than I think Pocket Pair ever thought it could become, and far bigger than the games industry would like it to be. Recently, I have been seeing both game developers and games journalists chiming in, saying that they believe that Pocket Pair's Palworld is nothing but a flash in the pan, that the only reason that the game is popular is because of the controversy that surrounds the game.
Yeah.
Which doesn't really make a lot of sense why people are still playing it right now. Nor does it make a lot of sense that they're still the ones that are talking about it. Kind of counterintuitive, isn't it? Now, with that said, today what I want to do is I want to...
Not even just counterintuitive. I mean, it's basically a very, very easy thing. Those fuckers are jealous. Because Palworld is something that came from the hearts of someone that actually wanted to do it. And those people that actually say, it's so bad, it's a carbon copy, those are just some fuckers that themselves will never start anything of their own. Will never have something that actually does something special and important. They will never have something that people will remember them for. Most of them are just run-of-the-mill assholes. And they will die and nobody will remember them in good. And that's why. That's why.
To discuss what many people believe the future of Palworld will look like with something a little bit more realistic. I want to look at the roadmap for Palworld and how that pertains to the future of the game, but also I want to talk about other survival games that have continued to thrive far after their initial launch. Do people not realize that this game is only halfway done? Most of the mechanics that they've listed in their roadmap are like core mechanics that haven't been implemented into the game yet. This thing's going to be a behemoth by the time it's done. Personally, I believe Palworld likely has the largest, the highest ceiling of any survival game that we've ever seen. Ever. The now #1 most played game on Steam has sold over 20 million copies in the first 2 weeks of its release. To put that into perspective, Hogwarts Legacy stole the show last year with over 24 million copies sold over the course of the year, making it the most selling game of 2023. Palworld has exploded, and it has caught the attention of everyone. Fans, haters, critics, and developers, with the game remaining in the trending sections of Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. However, one place has remained relatively silent, and that's Japanese media, which according to Tokyo Sports, has had media professionals advise against talent and celebrities talking about Palworld in any capacity, as it ultimately may endanger their reputation with the Pokemon brand and Nintendo.
Oh!
Quoting the article directly...
Wait, this actually, I'm gonna be honest, this makes some kind of sense. Especially there, because, you know, if you're in a big firm like that and then... Yeah, they aren't as nice about it as we in the West are, so... Yeah, makes sense, I understand.
we have told our talent not to mention Palworld on social media or in public. This was done out of consideration for the Pokemon side as an agency. This decision was made in consideration of future collaborations and etc. Now, this may seem like a relatively hot take. However, from a business perspective, this is the best thing for these companies to do because Pokemon Company, any chance that they wouldn't want to work with.
Yes, and sadly, as he says, it is a real thing that you actually have to worry about directly there. Just because, well, the fact in the matter is, yeah, Pokemon is big and they cannot do anything against Palworld, so they're gonna be pissed if you talk about it positively, probably. Not in a way where it should matter, but it does. Sadly, it just does.
These people would be a major loss in business. Now, from a moral perspective, this sucks. Pokemon is a global brand. It's the biggest media franchise of all time. While it does have many competitors, it effectively has a market monopoly on the creature collecting genre. With as much money as the Pokemon Company makes in collaborations, merchandise, games, anime, comics, and movies, harming your relationship with that brand, especially as a Japanese company, is just not a risk that's worth taking.
Yeah.
Now, whether this is or isn't the intent of the Pokemon Company or Nintendo, it doesn't really matter because the sheer size of the Pokemon franchise is so big and so influential that it effectively limits freedom of expression, consumer transparency, innovation, or competition within the markets it dwells in because it's just that big. I cracked the joke to my friend the other day that if all of human civilization ended and some alien race comes in and they check the remains of what was left behind, they would likely find Pokemon, and they'd find so many of them that they would probably believe that we worship these little critters, and in many ways, we did. Now, with that said, this is one of the reasons why many other creature collection games that come in never find anything other than niche relevance because the Pokemon brand is so massive that it stifles anything else that comes close to it. Could you ever imagine any game ever beating Pokemon? No. The only thing that could beat Pokemon is Pokemon. Now, with that said, Palworld doesn't really care, and it doesn't really matter whether or not the Japanese markets are talking about it, or celebrities, or whoever, because it's so massive that it's on the tips of everyone's tongues around the world. It's so disruptive and abrasive that it doesn't matter how big Pokemon is because it's impossible to ignore Palworld. Now, with that said, some of the people that aren't ignoring it tend to be also some of the most vocal, and they're also the ones that believe that Palworld won't last within a month. Dead by Daylight developer Nathan S. writes, Palworld crossing 2 million concurrent players moved it past CSGO to only trail PUBG in Steam's all-time concurrent rankings. However, it is already the clear record holder for how quickly I became sick of talking about a game.
And I'm gonna say this. If you are actually sick of Palworld, if you don't like it, that's fine. Just don't buy it, don't use it. But for fuck's sake, can you just be happy for the people that actually enjoy it? I mean, if it was a shit, manipulative, really bad game that's actually that's proven that does some kind of harm, I would understand it. But it doesn't. It's a good game. It's really not bad. It doesn't harm anyone. People just have fun with it. And the people that made it just made it really big. So why? Why would you get ass cramped about it? I just don't get it. People are just sad sacks of meat this way. Just be happy for someone else. For a second. Of course, strive for your thing. But also be happy for someone else if they have some kind of freaking positive impact. Especially if you can have fun with it.
I don't think Palworld is very good. It's insanely buggy. The most dangerous enemies are the random holes on the map. Combat is boring and repetitive. the balancing is awful. This becomes really apparent in the mid and end game when catch rates seem to decrease and your own weapon's damage dramatically outscales what your pals.
Oh, by the way, the freaking catch rates, yes, there is a bug in this. There is a bug where if you actually get the statue, you make your catch rate way worse. Well, I didn't know that. Now I'm effed, but it's still an alpha game, and it's already very fun. It's very fun, so...
are capable of. The large open world is empty, littered with points of interest that aren't home to anything interesting. But the combination of two strong loops is powerful stuff. Monster taming's just one more catch, and crafting's just one more build result in an addictive amount of just one more. And since I'm weak, I'll admit that I've played a great many hours and beaten all the towers. However, I won't be chasing all the legendaries, and I'll be doing my best to resist new content when it arrives. Palworld is early access. The windfall its sales have generated should allow it to deliver on its roadmap. And I'm sure both the balancing and bugs will be addressed. Yes, it's missing something I don't think any amount of money can fix. There's no warmth here. I'm sitting here wondering whether or not we're playing the same game, especially when he starts talking about him outscaling his pals. Buddy, you're catching the wrong monsters or you don't know how to train them. What is the point of bringing up how the game has bugs and issues only in the same breath to talk about how the game is in early access and many of those things are going to be fixed anyway because you realize that the game has made enough money to do so? Then also to recognize the two biggest strengths of the game and catch one more and build one more, only to take the moral high road in the end and talk about something as abstract as warmth and how you're not going to play the game and you're going to avoid any future content or updates for the game and you don't want to talk about the game or anything like that.
Yeah, if you don't want to have fun, don't do it. F you for that. Honestly, like, okay, then don't. Good to hear that you like it, but you still dislike it, and like a freaking woman, honestly, like a freaking woman. Doesn't know what he wants, even though something that he wants is there. He just won't take it because of some, I don't know. It's not even a moral high ground. He didn't mention anything of morality or something like that. It's just, yeah, it's fun, yeah, I wanna do it, yeah, but I don't wanna do it. F you.
Here you are talking about it. All of this moral high roading that we've been seeing from developers across the industry over the last few years speaks volumes about the state of things, especially the reasons as to why we're getting games like Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League. It's because they recognize and they know the things that we enjoy and we like, but they want us to do what they want.
Yes. I'm gonna put it in simpler words, finally. They want control. And yes, it may just be a bit funny to hear, but they want control. If you want power over someone, if you want control over someone, you want them to do exactly as you want, not as they please. Because if people do how they want, as they please, you won't have control over that. It's that simple.
I'm so sick of it. Nathan continues by saying, at the risk of being saccharine, what makes Pokemon so special is the bond you form between your adorable little ball dwellers. And this bond is the source of something approaching ludonarrative harmony. The strongest trainers are those who have the greatest connection with their—
Ha! Bullshit. Total bullshit. Because I know a lot of people who actually play Pokemon and they give zero shits about their Pokemon. Zero shits. They are just something they wanna do. That's all. And just like here, and yes, everybody has a favorite Pokemon, but you really wanna tell me that you don't have your favorite pal? Like, come on. Come on. And even I, heartless bastard, have a favorite pal. And who is it? It's this baby here, right here. This, actually even two. Yes, even two. I'm gonna show you my second baby. Here, This witch. This furry little thing. No, don't kill it. Oof, okay. And yes, you can have a bond. It's not even a problem. Don't pretend like you don't. Maybe you don't have a bond with anything that's in it. But that's fine. Maybe you're even incapable of having a bond with some of the creatures. And that's also fine. Because this game is there to have fun.
They're Pokemon. The fundamental tenet of the franchise is that there's power in empathy. Nothing hammers this idea home better than the first episode of the animated series, one of the greatest episodes of any.
Yeah, of course, power and empathy. You can breed them. You can just shove, how are they called, sweets, candies or something like that with stat boosts? With the stat boost? Yeah, so you let them F, you boost them with drugs, and you just go around and catch them and throw away the ones you don't want. Yes, sorry. No. That's just... Palworld is just way more open about it, that it is what it is. Yeah? It's a way more brutal thing. Because you can... And I mean, even Pokemon get eaten. Because I remember there was a freaking scene when I was very young, but I also could misremember it. That's not something I'm gonna exclude totally. Where they actually ate, how are they called? The Carpador, something like that. Yeah, Carpadors. Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, it were Carpadors. So yes, you just don't see it as explicit. That's a thing.
Anything ever, when Ash was willing to sacrifice himself to save Pikachu. As Cass Marshall wrote in a great piece for Polygon, the problem is that I don't particularly care for any of my pals. I've caught hundreds of pals. I won't remember a single one. These critters are just disposable resources and labor. And aesthetics aside, they remind me more of slaves in Conan Exiles than any Pokemon. I'm hardly the first to make this point, but the greatest takeaway from Palworld is the missed opportunity for Game Freak.
So wait. So he at the start of the article he said it's basically Pokemon, but now he actually said it reminds him more of slaves than Pokemon. Yeah, the logic doesn't logic there entirely. I guess I misunderstood something, but no, it doesn't make sense.
Who have been taking a devoted player base for granted for far too long. Hopefully this serves as a wake-up call. The bigger winner here beyond Pocket Pair? Whomever at Microsoft Xbox Publishing Studios signed that Game Pass deal. Now, this returns to something that I've talked about in past videos, where I believe that there are some studios that really don't understand their audiences. And in this instance specifically, when we're looking at the writer from Polygon as well as Nathan, they are reading far too much into the connection between players and their digital creatures. While I realize this is anecdotal, when I was growing up, I loved Pokemon. I wanted to be just like Ash Ketchum with my Pokemon best friends, striving to be the best there ever was. However, I did not have that same connection with the creatures that I caught in the game. In fact, I would assume most players don't. How many players are out there with Bill's PCs filled to the brim with monsters that they don't care or have any connection with at all, and instead are running around with a team of the strongest monsters possible because that's the kind of gameplay that Pokemon games promote? If anything, because of the way that we interact with pals in Palworld, use them for tasks at our base, use them for travel, and use them for battle, Palworld may actually be a little bit more effective in creating an attachment with the players. Heck, I have Blaze Howl Noct running around my base, heating things up, even though I know I have better monsters at kindling. Why? Because I like the monster, I like the way that he looks, and I'm convinced that he's a better heater or kindler because of how awesome he is. I'm sure that there are other players that are just like that, riding around or using certain monsters just because they like the way they look or because they just have kept that monster throughout the entire time that they've been playing. Pokemon games force the exact opposite on us. You need to use the most effective units in every situation, otherwise you're not an effective player. Now, when we look back to Nathan's initial summation of the game, and he talks about how he thinks the open world is empty, the gameplay is boring and repetitive, and how balancing is terrible. Well, we could say the exact same thing about the Pokemon series right now as well. But regardless, they believe that the most value is in this warmth they speak of, in the connection between us and our pals, even though he recognized the area where the game was the strongest, which is in its addictive gameplay loops, which tells me that their priorities are not the same as the players because, well, we can see the concurrent player numbers on Palworld. The game's doing absolutely fantastic. It's crushed it in sales. And why is that? Well, it's because it's a game that has its priorities in the right place. It's because it's gameplay first rather than anything else.
Yes.
And while I do think that
and this makes sense because it's a effing game.
Some of the things that they talk about when they're talking about creativity and originality do matter. It doesn't matter as much in the face of just making sure that the game is actually fun to play and functional. Largely, I think this is probably one of the best early access releases I've ever seen. You know, I've seen a lot of criticisms around this game, specifically for creativity and originality, and it always loops back to that, especially with a lot of the developers and also a lot of the game's journalists that want to criticize the game in every way they possibly can. And they believe that that's largely the reason why the game is not going to continue to succeed in the future. They think it's going to fail as a result of that lack of creativity and originality. Me, personally, I'm looking at the game seeing that they're following very specific archetypes. They're blending those archetypes very well together, and they're also laying themselves a foundation and a path forward based off the successes of other games that is likely a guaranteed road to success. Palworld's popularity and growth has been out of control, with server costs now costing over $500,000 a month, the CEO cracking jokes that the company could go bankrupt just from server costs alone. Now, ultimately, like any game, Palworld's popularity is not going to keep pace. People are going to finish the game, they're going to get distracted by many of the big releases that are right around the corner. Can't wait for Dragon's Dogma 2.
Dragon's Dogma 2 and Shrouded right now. I mean, even, Jesus, SOD, yes, even World of Warcraft. Those are the things that distract me right in the moment. Plus a few releases that I actually just couldn't effing resist by and just want to do that. Just because a lot of things that I actually waited for come at the same time. So yeah, there are a lot of things that actually get distracted and get distractive. And Palworld is just one of many things that will at one point actually lose its speed. But it won't happen that soon. Like, come on. Like, even with this freaking... in this day and age where you actually basically have kids with a freaking memory of 3 seconds, they're doing good. They're doing more than good. It's really like, yeah, they'll be fine. And I mean it, they will be more than fine.
By the way, and while concurrent player numbers may fall, it's crucial to keep in mind that this is a very early build of the game. Many of the game's systems aren't even fully implemented yet. Tons of planned content for the game's full release still is in its planning phases. And the team at Pocket Pair will have their work cut out for them when it comes to bug fixes, as well as just fixing a lot of the pathing issues that the game faces right now.
Especially
now, I want to clarify something because I think it's going to give people a clearer picture of what the future of Palworld could look like. This game is early access, and many players that are playing the game right now probably haven't played an early access game before, or at least a true early access like Palworld. As an example, Baldur's Gate 3 was released into early access 3 years before its full release. Early access in Baldur's Gate 3 was only part of the first act, and it grew more and more as time went on until it was basically the first act complete. It was buggy. Characters, quests, equipment, systems, and more were completely missing from the game.
Yep.
3 years later, we got the behemoth that is Baldur's Gate 3.
Yep.
Now, while Palworld may not necessarily have the same type of roadmap, I'm just trying to illustrate that this game is in its infancy. It's this big in its infancy.
Be a little more careful. That skin's valuable, and we won't always be watching.
As a sandbox survival game, Creature Collector, the game doesn't really need a whole lot of content to give it legs. it can walk on its own, because really when it comes to games like this, we just need a sandbox and the tools to make whatever our own adventure is. And that's something that they are obviously leaning into. That's the archetype that they've designed when it comes to Palworld, because what they want to do is strengthen the game at its strongest point, which is give players more opportunities to play together and do more things together. They're chasing the Ark and Rust dragon rather than the live service dragon, as many other companies would like to play at. But with that said, that's the smartest path for them to pick, because those games remain relevant. Why? Because they're played together by people on bigger and bigger servers. And that's been one of the main focuses that Pocket Pair has really been trying to lean into, is that group play. They want to make servers even bigger than just 32 players. And who knows how big they actually want to make them, but it's going to take a lot of money to do so. But it's going to help once these concurrent player numbers start to dip down a little bit, because server costs will be a little bit cheaper. But at the same time, they'll be able to then invest that money that they've already been spending on the current servers on servers that can allow larger and larger populations. So them choosing to lay out their roadmap, and if you guys have looked at it, most of the things that are on there are specifically for multiplayer. And there's a plan behind that. Multiplayer is the reason why I think Palworld might have the highest ceiling of any multiplayer survival game that we've ever seen. Games like Ark and Rust allow players to create their own story. Like, you've likely seen videos of it. I was recently watching a 3-hour video with over 5 million views about how 3,000 players simulated Earth civilization in Rust. The reason why things like this are possible in games like this is because they give players the tools to do whatever they want with that world. However, games like Rust and Ark aren't always appealing to everyone. You know what is appealing to everyone? Palworld. And the sales figures proved it. The CEO of Palworld has already come out saying that they're looking for more ways to be able to get more players into the game. They want to increase their server size past 32 players. Once this game has migration services, that means that we're going to have the ability to build our own team and character on a solo world or on a group world, head over to a friend's realm, or take our team to a larger server for trading, fighting, and playing with other players. The foundation that Palworld has already set and the creativity of players in other survival games show us exactly what we can expect for the future of this game. Role-playing and modding has blown up over the years, and given with how flexible Palworld already is, I mean, we already saw somebody mod Pokemon into Palworld within a week of its release, the possibility for this game is endless.
Yeah.
It's already easy to see a future in which I'm being able to play the game on a modded server where there's 8 islands, and each one of those islands have 8 bosses, and if I beat them, I get certifications from each that allowed me to be able to take on 4 really powerful enemies. We'll say they're in a league of sorts or something like that. And they're kind of elite. And if I beat them, then I'm the best there ever was.
Wink, nudge, nudge.
Now, the future of this game is really bright, especially when it comes to modding, because of how flexible the Unreal Engine is to begin with. But outside of that, I think that knowing that they're leaning so hard into player-to-player interaction tells me that they know exactly what they need to do to make sure that this game not only remains relevant, but also has the best path forward to a brighter future, even more sales, and even more content. I can easily see RP servers. I can see faction wars between people where they're fighting over different resources. They're raiding each other's bases. They're building fortresses in certain areas. They're trying to keep people out from being able to fight the tower bosses and things like that. I can see it all. And I can't wait for it. Now, while multiplayer is key to the game's longevity, keeping players in the game, balancing that with more endgame content, new islands, pals, bosses, and technologies will help bring players back to the game and keep the game fresh. People who are already playing the game find ways to entertain themselves. This is the reason why we see RP servers. People who have finished the game and need a reason to come back, well, that's what new content is for, and they will come back for it. The Dead by Daylight developer had mentioned how addictive the combination of survival game loops like Build One More and the Pokemon game loop of Catch One More can be. Well, this is effectively a fountain of youth for Palworld. Where survival and building mechanics can only generate so much interest, new monsters and lands to explore are proven by the Pokemon formula to keep players coming back over and over and over again. I'm not really sure if Pocket Pair knew that they were combining and making this diabolical concoction of gaming alchemy that's going to develop into this incredibly addictive game, or whether they did it on accident. But either way, it's absolutely genius because it's something that they're going to be able to iterate on forever. Just the same as the Pokemon franchise has done. As long as you're adding new areas to explore, new monsters, new things for us to challenge, things like that, well, those players are always going to be happy. As long as you're increasing the amount of things that we can build and the areas that we can build on, well, now you're making those survival people happy as well. And all you have to do is just keep adding on to those things until you can't anymore, and then you come out with a new game, and bam, bam, thank you, ma'am. Guess what? You're making more millions, or billions, I guess, in the case of Palworld. But with that said, it's incredible. It's something they're going to be able to continue to work on for quite a long time, and it's just the gift that keeps on giving, not only to them, but to the players as well. And as long as the quality stays high and they stick with the plans that they've set forth, the game is just going to continue to do well. Simple as that. Now, I realize that a lot of people in the industry are scratching their heads. They're saying, how come you coach him but not me? They're upset about it. And I get it, because it doesn't make a lot of sense to them, because their priorities have been in the wrong places for far too long. AAA games are becoming less and less attractive to consumers. We're seeing that oh my God, losing my language here. We're seeing that many indie games, AA games, independent studios are the ones that are starting to lead the charge. We saw it last year. Many of the games that were released that ended up being Game of the Year didn't come from major AAA studios. They didn't come from first-party titles. Heck, most of them were just single A, AA, and a few indie games as well. I think that ultimately what's going to end up happening, especially with games like we've seen with Baldur's Gate 3, and now we're also seeing this with Palworld, there's going to be a bit of a correction within the market or within the industry. At least I hope they're going to have some type of correction where they're going to realize that we don't necessarily need all these massive budgets. We don't need this AAA polish all the time. Sometimes you just need to give us a sandbox to play with our friends, and we'll be able to figure things out on our own. And that's exactly what a game like Palworld is giving us. Yeah, it has some...
And don't use this as an excuse. Because yes, it sounds nice and all, but a lot of games use exactly this kind of thinking as an excuse to actually not build in a story in this entire shebang. No, you still need a kind of story or a kind of purpose in the world, so you still need to actually build that one in, no matter what you do. So no, don't take this as a, well, you can do anything you want. No, because that's just lazy and it won't go well. Because in Palworld, yes, you actually have a purpose given to you. You have to defeat the tower things at the start. And after that, it's open for you. But before that, well, it's not. And it's fine. And we still don't know what comes after this. That's why it's still a fresh thing, because you still don't know what will come and what story beats we actually will get in the near future.
Bumper rails on the side, things that we're already used to, like collecting Pokemon or pals or whatever you'd like to call them, but also at the exact same time, well, it gives us this world that we can craft and create our own adventure and do things as we will. Take challenges on as we want to take them or as we discover them. And that's really important, because at the end of the day, like I said, it's not necessarily these big budget games that we're looking forward to. No, we just want to have fun.
Yeah.
That's all Palworld is. Just a fun game. I have more content planned on Palworld that I'm going to make. I have another video that kind of dives into exactly why a lot of us really like the game, or more or less why it's made such large waves in the industry. So look forward to that. If you guys did enjoy this video, or you guys are just enjoying the content of the channel overall, think about supporting me on Patreon. I leave my Patreon link down below. Every bit helps. Outside of that, my friends, stay cool, stay righteous, stay safe, and most of all, I will see you in Palworld. Peace. Also, catch me live.
Well, Acolyte's good enough, I guess. I mean, I'm gonna be honest, I am quite happy that I just see a lot of people that think the same as me on the internet. It's not always some efforts that I just disagree fully with. It's a lot of people that actually have the same mindset as me. And that's something I didn't expect, not even close to expecting, to actually find on this big thing, until I actually made this channel and seen it for myself, so quite happy about that. So, as it is, Acolytes, good night.